Hey, so good to see you again. I thought I'd start that video different than saying, all right. It is. It's good to see you again, wherever you are in the world. I have students, people make these YouTube videos when I'm in class, and then people all over the world watch them in Yemen, all kinds of places, and it's cool, man. So we're learning about creating web pages, and we're going to start looking at layout a little bit more. And we looked at semantic HTML earlier. If you want to see all the videos, you could go to YouTube, Greater Commons. And that's where you'll go, and the playlist in there has all the videos that we're creating in this class. And Greater Commons is a website I'm building for the greater good of humanity with some friends. We're building it. And it's all about giving people education so they could get skills and then get jobs, part-time, full-time, freelance. Because education, I believe, is the noblest of endeavors, and as an individual improves their life, they improve the world. So that's good stuff. So that's Greater Commons, that's YouTube. And the code base we're working out of is that GitHub goes to 11, and the repo is HTML, CSS, Bootcamp. And the last thing I'll point out is just give you all the information. Twitter, Todd McLeod, right there. Follow me to learn about web development, front end and back end. All right, so let's learn about display. And we're working out this outline, which you could find right here. So there's the outline that we're following for this course. And so just scrolling up, layout fundamentals, just a little bit of a review, the box model and display. And so the box model is everything is a box. And so this is just a reminder, right? Everything on a web page is a box. And we have boxes that are block level elements, and we have boxes that are inline level elements. And so span is a classic inline, image, anchor, inline text, inline level elements. They just line up in line. And block level elements take up an entire left to right block, and they stack on top of each other. And those are display properties. Display block, display inline block. So this is just a box model reminder. We're going to look a little bit at display and how we could use display to do some layout. And so box sizing border box is, that means that what? You all tell me. If we apply box sizing border box to an element, then when we change what happens? That's as general. What does box sizing border box do? Somebody tell me.
It sets the element it's associated to always be the size depicted by the height and width of the original element.
Yeah, so if we explicitly set width on an element, we say this is 100 pixels, and then we add padding to it without box sizing border box, that element's going to get a little wider. It's no longer going to be 100 pixels. And then if we add border to it, it's going to get a little wider. But if we put box sizing border box, as we change padding and border, that width of 100 pixels will never change. Instead, it'll push the content inward and make the area the content has inside occupy less space inside. So it'll always remain 100 pixels as you change the padding and the border. So that's box sizing border box. How do you remember box sizing border box? Box is on the outside of both words. Box sizing border box. Box is on the outside. And then rounding and centering. So rounding things, we had border radius property. And there's the treble, right? Border radius 1 setting gives you top, right, bottom, left. Border radius 2 settings gives you top, bottom, right, left. Border radius 4 settings gives you top, right, bottom, left. And then we had margin, and we could center things with margin using auto for right and left. And so that would center something, right? So we've learned all that. So let's just review. And so display property review, display property, block versus inline level elements, right? Block begins a new line, takes up the entire line, takes up as much width as possible. You can nest inside inline elements and block level elements. So you can nest block inside inline elements. It's interesting. I have to experiment with that. That's something that's raises a question for me. Is that correct? So we could experiment with it and see what happens. Pa-pow, pa-pow, pa-pow. 14. Block nest. Let's call it block nest. This one is misnamed. and do an index. So can you nest? You can nest inside of inline element span. Here is my span. Here's my span. And Lilink. Element div is not allowed here. So I don't think we could do that. Div, we can do that. So my notes were a little bit confusing. You can nest inside block, you can nest inside a block level element. Inline elements and block level elements. That's more clear now. Inline elements does not begin a new line, takes up as little width as possible. You can nest inside inline elements. We'll primarily use block, inline block, none, and flex for display property. Whoop. Whoop, there goes another one. Whoop, there goes another one. So let's look at some of these. Page of divs. Create a page filled with divs. Change the default display property of divs block level to a setting which allows the divs to be displayed one after another horizontally. So this is 03002. So I did this. Div with a class of DRB, and I just gave them all $1 at the end of the class, so DRB1, 2, 3, and times 4. So DRB1, 2, 3, 4, DRB1, 2, 3, 4, DRB1, 2, 3, 4. Do that 50 times. That's kind of cool, Emmett. And then in my styles, I have a div, so all divs are going to be a width, height, border, border radius, display, inline block. And then DRB1, 2, 3, 4, red, blue, yellow, green. What is this going to look like? Can you picture it? Get killed walking your doggy. Sorry, that's a movie reference we were talking about earlier. You're watching this video, you're like, what is he talking about? What's this going to look like? Somebody tell me, just speculate.
Patterns. Pattern of red, blue, yellow, green.
Down the page vertically, across the page, running off the edge of the page, wrapping around the page. What's going to happen? We have a bunch of divs. Each div is going to be 200 wide, 100 high. A little bit of a rectangle. They're going to have a border which is black, pretty thin, 2 pixels. We're going to round them so they'll have rounded edges. And then we're going to display inline block. These are normally block level elements which stack one on top of each other, just like here. Inline block means that they're going to stack side by side in line to each other and then just wrap from across the page. So it's going to be across the page, one big row going down, 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 many rows, and then we'll have different colors of them. It's going to look like this. That's pretty cool. See, Alex.
So would display in line be just one giant row?
Yeah, I think so. Bam! They're all squished. So be a block level element, but also be inline block. I like that one. Horizontal menu. For this hands-on exercise, create a menu using the UL element and the display property. Have that menu displayed in a horizontal fashion. Use the list style CSS property to remove the bullet points. Starting file solution. FYI, we'll have to look at that in a second. Here's a UL, and then LIs, and menu items. Here's the CSS. HTML. Everything is going to be 32 pixels. Font size is 2rem. This is kind of weird because 2rem is referring to the root, which is HTML is the root. But beyond that, it's the document. So if it's 16 for the default of a browser, it should be 32. That's kind of wacky. I'm interested to see what that brings out. Because I always talk about rem as referring to HTML. UL's list style type none. So that gets rid of the bullets. And list style is shorthand property. So you could use the more longhand way of list style type none. LI border, 2 pixels solid red. Display radius 50 pixels. Or I mean border radius 50 pixels. So it's rounded some. And display inline block. So all these LIs, instead of being vertically stacked on top of each other, they're going to be inline block. And padding, 10 pixels on the anchor. Border on the anchor matches this border here. Border radius matches this border here. Display inline block for those. And text decorations none. LI hover. Background color. Let's see what this looks like. And then let's look at like why are those settings there. So what if we took all this out? Huh. Okay, so let's add some padding to our anchor. All right, that gave it a little bit of room inside, and we'll add a border to our anchor. All right, so there's the border, and I'm getting my finger before I go over the button, right? Because that's the border of the anchor. Here's without the padding. There's the border of the anchor, so that's closer, but still it's not nice. So I add that padding, and now I've got padding, but it's not matching, so I add border radius, and then it matches. A little bit off right there. Display inline block. Brought it in closer. Text decoration none gets rid of the underline. I'm curious, is LI a block level element or an inline element or inline block? What's it look like as a block level element? Looks pretty block, right? That's the LI. Doesn't that look block? Takes up an entire row. That's pretty block. So that's using display inline block. And this is a very common practice to do menus with ULLI. In the past. You could also get those guys to go horizontal flex box, right? Make UL a flex container, LI become flex children, and then you just do flex direction row, justify content center, align item center. And that'll make all the LIs go horizontal. Flex direction row makes them go horizontal. So you could do layout with display. This is taco shop. Nav. Inside the nav, there's our navigation, UL, LI. These can be like anchor tags. And then we have H1 and a paragraph. And these are inside. All this is inside. Where's main start? Starts right here. And notice you can't leave a space or return here. That's a wacky little HTML bug. So here's our body. The width is 80% of body. It's going to be 80% of the HTML page. Here's max width 700 pixels. But it's never going to get bigger than 700 pixels. Margin 0 auto is going to make sure it's in the center, whatever body's holding. Border 5-pixel solid green. Nav and main border, box sizing border box. Nav vertical align top. Display inline block width 25%. Main display inline block width 75%. So nav and main are inline block. They're going to line up next to each other. This width is 25%. This one is 75%. Together, they're 100% will take up the body. So here's the layout. It's okay, but not as cool as Flexbox, right? Just so you know that it's possible. And we can play with it here. Take out margin 0 auto. Kaboom. Please, no. Let's leave that on. Take out max, so there it's on. Take out max width. All right. Take out width. That doesn't do anything because we're already at our max. It would do something if we got below 700. All right, that's where width is kicking in, 80%. And border, box sizing border box for nav and main. And vertical align top on nav. Display inline block. Display inline block. So these are taken up 25 and 75%. And if these aren't right next to each other, isn't that weird? Can't leave that space. That's all I changed. Isn't that bizarre? Excuse me. Right? Look. Like all I did is put that on its own line, and that's what happens. Put it back on that line. It's kind of a bug, HTML bug. So that's layout with display. And next we're going to look at Flexbox, and then we'll look at position and float for layout. But Flexbox is next. We'll see that next.